It was such an emotional weekend. I mean, I think I cried at least 4 or 5 times a day, all 3 days I was there.
50 years. I was 9 when it started. I'm 59 and I'll be 60 in May, so yeah.
Why did Melissa Gilbert stay silent all these years about Dean Butler, and why is she finally speaking now? What she just revealed has taken everyone by surprise. Longtime fans, and especially those who cherished the iconic love story between Laura and Almanzo. Was Dean Butler truly the love of her life? Was the chemistry between them genuine, or just incredibly convincing acting? And what secrets has Melissa kept hidden for decades? Stay with us, because once you hear what she finally revealed, you might never look at that beloved TV romance the same way again. If you grew up watching Little House on the Prairie, you undoubtedly remember Melissa Gilbert. She became unforgettable to millions thanks to her portrayal of Laura Ingalls. Her on-screen romance with Dean Butler, who played Almanzo Wilder, was one of the most talked-about parts of the show. The series followed the Ingalls family living in a modest wooden house out in the countryside, facing storms, illness, and harsh winters. Though life was tough, they never gave up. At its heart was Laura, a curious, kind, and resilient young girl. Played by a 10-year-old Melissa, Laura didn't have fancy things, but she had something more valuable: love, family, and a deep sense of wonder. That's what made her character resonate so deeply with audiences. Viewers watched Melissa grow up on screen. She laughed, cried, and learned valuable life lessons every week, and as she matured, her character did too, eventually falling in love. That's when Dean Butler entered the picture as Almanzo Wilder. From the moment he appeared on screen, fans were captivated. He brought with him a gentle strength and trustworthiness that made the romantic storyline with Laura feel incredibly authentic. When their characters locked eyes for the first time, audiences felt the electricity. The chemistry was palpable, so real that fans began to wonder if something more was going on behind the scenes. Back then, there was no social media to confirm or deny those suspicions. No Instagram stories or behind-the-scenes vlogs to give us a glimpse of what was real. We only had episodes, a few interviews in magazines, and our imaginations. The lack of information made everything feel more mysterious and magical. Many fans hoped Melissa and Dean were secretly dating, but neither ever confirmed nor denied the rumors. For years, they remained silent, letting people wonder. Were they just very good actors? Were they close friends, or was there something deeper? That unanswered question became part of the show's enduring allure. The love story of Laura and Almanzo wasn't just a plotline, it was the emotional core of Little House on the Prairie. It gave the show heart and kept viewers tuning in week after week. Melissa Gilbert and Dean Butler became household names, and their characters' romance gave fans hope and joy. But as time passed, those same fans couldn't help but wonder, what was the real story behind their connection? Why hadn't Melissa ever opened up about it? And what was the truth behind all those dreamy glances and tender moments? Now, after all these years, Melissa is finally ready to speak. But before diving into the truth about her and Dean, we need to step back and understand who Melissa Gilbert was before she ever wore Laura's braids. Her journey didn't begin on the prairie. It started in Los Angeles, far from the simplicity of country life. Born on May 8, 1964, Melissa was adopted just a day later by actor and comedian Paul Gilbert and his wife, Barbara Crane, a dancer and actress. From the beginning, she was part of a showbiz family, though that didn't mean life was easy. Even with loving parents, Melissa's early childhood was filled with pressure and confusion. Her adoptive father, Paul, was warm and playful and often took her along to auditions and television sets. Cameras, lights, and scripts became familiar to her. It wasn't long before Melissa began acting herself. By the age of 7, she was already appearing in commercials. Her quiet charm and expressive eyes made her stand out, and by 9, she had landed the audition that would change everything: Laura Ingalls. What really sealed her role in Little House on the Prairie was her screen test with Michael Landon, who played Charles Ingalls and also served as the show's producer. From the moment they met, Michael took Melissa under his wing. He became more than just an on-screen father. He became a real father figure, guiding and protecting her through the challenges of being a child actor. After her parents divorced and her connection with her real father grew distant, Michael Landon became her rock. Melissa became close with his real-life family too. She spent time at the Landon home, formed a close bond with Michael's daughter Leslie, and found a sense of belonging there. In the often lonely world of Hollywood, that love and support meant everything. But that didn't mean Melissa's real life was always happy. Navigating the pressures of fame, her parents' divorce, and the confusion of growing up in the spotlight left her feeling torn between two very different worlds. Still, Melissa grew stronger through it all. She built close friendships with her castmates, like Allison Arngrim, who played Nellie Olson. And she learned how to handle fame with grace. By her teenage years, she had already filmed countless emotional scenes and carried major storylines, all while staying grounded. Then came the arrival of Dean Butler as Almanzo, and everything shifted. Melissa was growing up, and so was Laura. Their characters' love story was destined to become one of the most iconic parts of the show. The chemistry between Melissa and Dean was undeniable. Viewers couldn't help but root for them, both on screen and possibly off. But while fans saw a young woman experiencing first love, Melissa was still figuring out what it meant to portray love and deal with the questions that followed. Was she acting? Was she feeling something real? And how did this experience affect her emotionally as a teenager? Behind the romantic prairie scenes, Melissa was just a young girl trying to find her place in the world, caught between the real and the scripted, the pressures of fame and the search for identity. At first, it was all fun and excitement, but the story behind those tender moments was far more complex than anyone imagined. Melissa Gilbert was only 9 years old when she stepped into Laura Ingalls' shoes, and at first, it all felt like a dream. She wore fun costumes, rode horses, and played on a set that looked like a world from the past. But as the seasons passed and she grew older, the magic began to fade. While other children went to school and spent time with friends, Melissa was on set for long hours, memorizing lines, taking adult direction, and delivering emotional performances. It may have seemed fun to viewers, but the truth was, the pressure of being a child actor was immense. Strangers expected her to always act like Laura, the sweet girl on TV, but Melissa was just a normal kid trying to grow up. The lines between who she was and who she was pretending to be began to blur, especially as she entered her teenage years. She started asking herself hard questions. Who am I? Where does Laura end and Melissa begin? It was painful growing up in the public eye, surrounded by people who treated her as if she was only a character. Things became even more complicated when Dean Butler joined the cast as her on-screen love interest and later, husband. Behind the scenes, it was awkward and deeply uncomfortable. Melissa was still a teenager, had never had a real boyfriend, and now she had to act out romantic scenes with a man 8 years older than her. Though Dean was professional and kind, it didn't ease the stress of being a 15-year-old girl pretending to be in love. The pressure mounted when fans began speculating about their real-life relationship. To Melissa, the romance felt like someone else's life. She wanted to please the audience, but inside she felt lost, trying to portray a grown-up love story before she even understood love herself. There were also constant expectations to look pretty, to smile, and to sell the illusion of Laura and Almanzo's love. While fans cheered for the TV couple, Melissa struggled privately with emotional confusion, overwhelming pressure, and a fading sense of her own identity. To make matters worse, she silently battled a condition called misophonia. Certain small sounds like chewing or tapping made her extremely upset and uncomfortable, though no one had a name for it at the time. Years later, she opened up about it in an interview with People magazine, finally putting words to what she had endured in silence. But her challenges didn't stop there. When Melissa landed the lead in the 1981 remake of Splendor in the Grass, it seemed like a step forward in her career, but it came with a cost. The production team pushed her to become a glamorous Hollywood starlet. Tight, revealing clothes replaced the modest prairie dresses, and every detail of her appearance was scrutinized. She felt like she was being molded into someone else, and the media quickly picked up on her new look. Criticism followed. People judged her harshly for not being the same girl they had adored as Laura. At just 18, trying to survive in an industry obsessed with beauty, Melissa decided to undergo plastic surgery. She had a nose job shortly after her birthday, calling it not a big deal in her memoir Prairie Tale, but in truth, the pain was intense. Complications led to 2 more surgeries, adding physical and emotional scars. Later, she also got breast implants, feeling caught between personal confidence and Hollywood's unforgiving standards. Yet, years later, she made a powerful choice. She had her implants removed and stopped dyeing her hair red. Speaking to People, she called it one of the smartest things I've ever done. It marked a turning point, a reclaiming of her identity and health. She began speaking out against the toxic beauty ideals of the entertainment world. In a heartfelt interview with Prevention magazine, she rejected the term anti-aging, calling aging a privilege and something to be embraced, not feared. Melissa had evolved from a young girl shaped by Hollywood's expectations to a woman proudly advocating self-acceptance. But one name still lingered in her story: Dean Butler. In her memoir, Melissa finally told the truth fans had waited decades to hear. "I was 15, and he was 23. I looked like a boy. I was built like a boy. I was a little girl. And I had to pretend to fall in love with a grown man." There was no warm-up or real chemistry. Their very first kiss was on national television. Melissa described it as awkward and weird, feeling like a child forced to play a woman. Dean, for his part, was always respectful and professional, aware of their age gap. Melissa revealed she had a real-life crush on Rob Lowe, not Dean. Dean felt more like a big brother, a colleague, not a romantic partner. Yet every week, she had to gaze into his eyes and pretend he was her soulmate, and fans believed it. Behind the scenes, their relationship was built on mutual respect, not passion. Dean never crossed boundaries, and Melissa appreciated that. Their on-screen romance became iconic, symbolizing true love for millions of viewers. But for Melissa, it was all part of a much more complicated journey, one filled with public adoration, private confusion, and the long, often painful process of discovering who she truly was. Dean Butler also shared his side of the story in interviews and in his book Prairie Man. He said, "We had to build a believable romance, and Melissa made it easy. She was focused, talented, and brave." Dean acknowledged that the age gap between them made things tricky, and he took his role seriously, not just as Almanzo, but as a kind of protector for Melissa. The pressure from the network and fans to make the on-screen chemistry look natural was intense, but together, he and Melissa created something magical, even if there was no real romance behind the scenes. Even after Little House on the Prairie ended, people continued to speculate about their relationship. Some believed they were secretly in love, while others hoped for a hidden story to emerge. Melissa, however, always told the truth. In an interview with Entertainment Weekly, she said, "We were never more than co-stars. It was acting. Really good acting." Still, their bond carried a unique sweetness. When Melissa turned 50 in 2014, she and Dean reunited for a TV segment. The connection was still there, but this time, it was all about cherished memories. They smiled, hugged, and reminisced about the days when they were everyone's favorite TV couple. Not because they were truly in love, but because they made us believe they were. In later interviews, Melissa reflected on how much Dean shaped that period of her life. "He was a constant during a very confusing time," she said. "And I'll always be grateful for that." It wasn't a passionate love story, but something even stronger, a lasting friendship that endured awkward scenes and public speculation. Now that Melissa has finally broken her silence, fans can rest easy knowing the truth. There was no secret romance, no hidden scandal, just two people who came together as strangers, became screen legends, and walked away with something better than love, a deep bond built on trust, care, and decades of shared history. When Little House on the Prairie came to an end, it wasn't just a television show wrapping up, it marked the close of Melissa Gilbert's childhood. She had spent nearly a decade in Walnut Grove, growing up in front of millions of viewers. The cast and crew were like family, and suddenly, the cameras went dark, and real life waited for her. For many child stars, that's when things fall apart, but Melissa's story was different, though far from easy. She struggled to find roles that allowed her to break free from the iconic image of Laura Ingalls. Audiences still saw her in pigtails, running through wheat fields, while she longed to explore her talent as a grown woman. Hollywood, however, often resists letting child stars reinvent themselves. Still, Melissa refused to give up. She landed roles in TV movies and theater, with standout performances in Choices of the Heart and Babylon 5, where she portrayed darker, more complex characters. She also did voice work and even performed on Broadway, pushing herself to stay relevant in an unforgiving industry. Her personal life, however, was filled with ups and downs. Melissa experienced high-profile relationships, including a long romance with Rob Lowe and a marriage to actor Bo Brinkman, with whom she had a son, Dakota. The marriage ended in divorce. Later, she married actor Bruce Boxleitner, becoming a stepmother to his sons. That marriage also ended, but it gave her years of life experience she would later write about. In her memoir Prairie Tale, Melissa opened up about her struggles with addiction, self-doubt, heartbreak, and the pressure to maintain a perfect image. She revealed her battles with alcohol, regrets over plastic surgery, and moments of feeling completely lost. "There were moments I didn't recognize myself anymore," she wrote. But instead of hiding, she laid it all bare for the world to see, and that vulnerability only deepened her fans' admiration. Melissa also dealt with serious health issues. In her 40s, she suffered from neck and spine problems and underwent surgery after a fall on Dancing with the Stars. Yet even through pain, she kept moving forward. In 2016, she made headlines again, this time in politics. Melissa ran for Congress in Michigan's 8th District. Though she had to drop out due to health concerns, her campaign revealed a new side of her, a passionate advocate for change. Then came a major turning point. In 2013, she met actor Timothy Busfield. This relationship felt different. They married quietly, settled into a small home in the Catskills, and embraced a slower, simpler life. "I wanted to go back to something simple," Melissa said. And she meant it. The couple grows vegetables, raises chickens, and even lives without Wi-Fi much of the time. Melissa shed the pressure to look young or fit a Hollywood mold. She had her breast implants removed and vowed to avoid any further cosmetic procedures. "I'm embracing who I am," she told people. "This is my face. This is me." It was a bold message in an industry that often pressures women to erase every line and flaw. In recent years, Melissa returned to her roots, not as an actress, but as an author and storyteller. Her 2022 memoir, Back to the Prairie, captured her journey to the countryside and the healing power of a simpler life. Fans connected with the authenticity of her stories, rebuilding a broken-down house, surviving brutal winters, and learning to live with less. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. That honesty resonated. Melissa also began speaking publicly about mental health, aging, and body image, encouraging young women to stop chasing perfection. "Happiness," she says, "can be found in the dirt under your nails and peace in your heart." Today, Melissa Gilbert is much more than just Laura Ingalls. She's a mom, a wife, a writer, and a truth-teller in a world of illusions. She grew up in front of the world, weathered storms both public and private, healed, and ultimately chose a life grounded in simplicity and truth. Her real legacy isn't just in the reruns of Little House on the Prairie or the timeless love story of Laura and Almanzo. It's in the courage to live authentically and speak honestly. She shows us that even if your story starts on a TV set, the most powerful chapters happen after the cameras stop rolling. What do you think of Melissa's journey and her heartfelt reflections? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. And for more inspiring stories like this, click the video currently showing on your screen.